The air in the waiting room feels too heavy, too still, as though it knows her secret. She sits on the edge of the chair, knees pressed tightly together, fingers twisting the strap of her small purse. She tells herself she can leave at any moment, but her legs refuse to move. Every tick of the clock pushes her deeper into this place she has dreaded for months. Her heart hammers so loud she wonders if the receptionist can hear it. She avoids everyone's eyes, burying her gaze into the floor tiles. They blur together, gray and cold, reflecting the unease spreading through her chest. She rehearses excuses in her mind. I feel better now. I'll reschedule. I don't need this. But she knows she's lying. That's why she forced herself through the clinic doors, even though she felt her stomach twist the moment she saw the sign above them. The receptionist calls her name, soft but firm. Her throat dries. She rises slowly, adjusting her sweater like armor. Each step toward the hallway feels heavier, dragging her into the unknown. She tells herself again, it's routine, simple, over before I know it. But the thought offers no comfort. The nurse leads her into a room painted in calming blues, though the color does nothing to steady her pulse. The sterile scent of antiseptic clings to the air, sharp and unavoidable. She perches on the edge of the chair, gripping her purse tighter. She imagines an older doctor entering, gray-haired, with kind but distant eyes. That's what she expects. That's what she's prepared for. The door opens. Everything stops. The man who steps in doesn't belong here. Not in her mind, not in her fearful expectations. He is young, too young, strikingly young for the role he carries. His presence fills the room instantly, his stride confident, his posture sharp. He wears his white coat with effortless authority, but something in the way it hangs on him makes it feel like a disguise rather than a uniform. Her breath catches in her chest. She doesn't speak. She doesn't even blink. He offers a professional greeting, his voice calm, smooth, practiced, yet laced with a weight she can't name. The sound travels through her like a current, unsettling, impossible to ignore. His eyes meet hers, steady and unreadable, and she feels stripped of every defense she tried to build on her way here. She notices how his watch gleams, expensive, far too expensive for a simple clinic doctor. His shoes polished, his cufflinks subtle but luxurious. Everything about him radiates wealth, refinement, a life lived far beyond these pale blue walls. And then she remembers the whispers she overheard in the waiting room. A group of women murmuring, eyes darting toward the closed office door, voices trembling with both awe and curiosity. He doesn't need this job. He's already a millionaire. Why would someone like him choose to stay here? The words echo now, louder than ever, and her chest tightens as she wonders what kind of man has just walked into her life. He moves with a composure that unsettles her more than it reassures. Every gesture is measured, deliberate, as though even the smallest motion has been rehearsed. His voice carries no hesitation when he speaks, explaining the basics of the appointment, but beneath the professionalism, there is something unnervingly controlled. She can't shake the feeling that he is not just examining patients. He is studying them. She keeps her answers short, hoping her silence will shield her, but it doesn't. His eyes linger too long, not in a way that feels unprofessional, but in a way that feels like he sees more than she wants to reveal. He nods occasionally, writes something on his chart, then pauses as though considering something deeper than medical notes. The staff's behavior doesn't help. She notices it instantly, how the nurse avoided his gaze, how the receptionist's smile stiffened when his footsteps echoed through the hall. They obey him, yes, but not the way employees usually obey a doctor. It's sharper, tighter, almost like fear wrapped in politeness, and he doesn't ask for their respect. He commands it simply by existing. She thinks of the whispers again. Millionaire, too young, too perfect. A man who could easily be on magazine covers at luxury parties, living anywhere but here in this quiet, anonymous clinic. Why would someone with money, influence, and obvious power bury himself in a routine job surrounded by sterile walls? Why here? Why now? Her pulse quickens as she steals glances at him, watching the way he writes with precision, the way his jawline tenses when he concentrates. There is nothing sloppy about him, nothing casual. His tie is perfectly knotted, his hair styled with an ease that still feels intentional. He looks like someone who belongs to another world, yet he's standing right in front of her, pretending to be ordinary. The thought needles at her. Perhaps this is not his real life at all. Perhaps this clinic is a mask, a front for something else. Wealth can come from anywhere. Inheritance, business, darker things. A man like him doesn't simply choose to vanish into small-town medicine without a reason. She feels a chill crawl up her spine as the possibility expands in her mind. Maybe he isn't here to heal. Maybe he's here to hide. His eyes flick up suddenly, locking onto hers, as if he can hear her thoughts. The intensity in his gaze is disarming, like a spotlight sweeping across her face, searching for cracks in her composure. She swallows hard, shifting slightly in her chair, but the weight of his stare doesn't lift. Then, without warning, he smiles. It's polite, professional, but it doesn't reach his eyes, and in that moment, she realizes he's far too practiced at concealing himself. Every inch of him feels carefully constructed, as though the man standing before her is more performance than person. The silence stretches, and she becomes hyper-aware of every detail. The ticking clock on the wall, the faint hum of fluorescent lights, the way his pen rests neatly against the paper. Ordinary sounds and sights, yet wrapped around a man who feels anything but ordinary. The unease coils tighter in her chest, feeding the suspicion that she has walked into a room with someone whose story is far larger than the one he lets the world see. The door clicks shut behind them, and the faint sound echoes in her chest like a warning. The room feels smaller now, the walls pressing inward, the air sharper. She sits on the exam table, paper crinkling beneath her, every shift of her weight amplified in the silence. Her hands grip the edge, knuckles pale, as though holding on will keep her steady. He sets the chart on the counter and slips on his gloves, the snap of latex quick and precise. Each movement is economical, free of hesitation, yet there's a strange deliberation to it, as if he is too careful, too exact. His presence fills the room, and she feels both trapped and exposed under his quiet authority. He tells her to breathe, his voice calm, the tone of reassurance expected from a doctor. But beneath that calmness, she hears an undertone she cannot name, something steady yet charged, like a current running under still water. It makes her chest tighten, her breath shallow. She obeys, drawing air into her lungs, but the sound of her own breathing feels loud in her ears. She can't focus on the instructions, can't detach herself the way she thought she could. Every glance he gives feels weighted, too observant, too knowing. It's not just the routine of medicine. It's the way his eyes linger, as if reading more than her body, as if searching for something behind her guarded expression. His questions come one by one, ordinary on the surface, symptoms, history, discomforts. Yet each one feels layered, as if he isn't just cataloging data, but probing for pieces of her life she doesn't intend to give. She answers with caution, keeping her voice low, but the moment a word leaves her lips, she senses he is already dissecting it, storing it away with meticulous precision. The silence between questions stretches longer than it should. The ticking clock seems louder here, the hum of the fluorescent light harsher. She feels as though the room itself is amplifying her vulnerability. She watches him move, watches the controlled way he adjusts the instruments, his eyes never straying without purpose. There is discipline in him, the kind that doesn't come from medical school alone. His gestures remind her of something trained, almost military, movements honed by repetition, by necessity, by something far beyond the needs of this small clinic. Her throat dries as she realizes she isn't sure who is evaluating whom anymore. She came here expecting to be examined, but now it feels like she is the subject of an assessment far deeper, far more personal than she signed up for. His gaze meets hers again, sharp and unblinking. For a heartbeat, the room feels suspended in time, the weight of his attention pinning her in place. She tries to look away, but something about his expression roots her to the spot. There is no judgment in his face, but there is no softness either. It is the look of someone peeling back layers, piece by piece, without asking permission. The paper beneath her crumples as her grip tightens, her body tense against the feeling that this isn't just medicine. This is something else entirely, something unspoken, hovering in the silence that grows heavier with every second. The routine rhythm of questions falters when he speaks a detail that freezes her blood. His voice is calm, even casual, but the words are wrong, too precise, impossible for him to know. He mentions her mother, her illness from years ago, and the specific complication that almost no one outside her family was ever aware of. The name of the condition, the exact phrase her mother whispered in late night conversations when she thought her daughter wasn't listening. It falls from his lips as though he had lived through it himself. Her body stiffens instantly, and her fingers curl around the paper sheet beneath her, the sound of the crinkle sharp in the stillness. Her eyes shoot to his face, searching for an explanation, but he doesn't flinch. His expression remains controlled, too controlled, though for the first time she notices the slightest crack in his composure, a flicker in his jaw, the faintest tension around his eyes. How do you know that? The question leaves her mouth before she can stop it. Her voice trembles, breaking through the barrier she has been struggling to hold. The silence that follows is unbearable. He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he sets his pen down carefully, as though giving himself a moment to decide how much to reveal. The room grows heavier with each second he doesn't speak. Finally, his gaze lifts, steady and unwavering. There is no attempt to pretend ignorance. He doesn't ask what she means, doesn't deny it. His eyes hold hers as if to say that denial would be pointless. The air between them feels charged, thick with the weight of something unspoken, something buried. Her mind races, tumbling through possibilities. Did he have access to her family's records? Did the clinic share information they shouldn't have? Or is it something deeper, something that reaches back farther than she can imagine? Every answer she grasps at slips away before it forms. He leans slightly closer, his voice dropping lower now, not with menace, but with a strange gravity, as though every word is a risk. Your mother? He begins, then stops himself, pressing his lips together. The pause stretches, and she sees conflict in his face, like a man carrying the weight of knowledge too heavy to release. Her chest tightens, her breath shallow. She doesn't move, doesn't blink, afraid that any motion will break the fragile balance in the air. She senses that what he's holding back is not just a fact about her mother's illness, but a truth that rewrites the story of her family, a truth he has no right to know and yet somehow does. The professional mask he wore so effortlessly at the start of the appointment slips further now. His hands, though steady, grip the edge of the counter a little too firmly. His composure is still there, but behind it is strain, as if he is battling himself, deciding whether to reveal or conceal. She feels the divide widening between them, a gulf of unanswered questions. The walls of the room seem closer, the air colder, as she realizes she is no longer just a patient sitting across from a doctor. She is a daughter confronting a man who knows her life in ways he should not, a man whose presence suddenly feels intertwined with her past in ways she cannot yet grasp. The silence between them feels unbearable, her pulse beating louder than the clock on the wall. He studies her as if searching for courage, as if confessing something he has carried for far too long. When he finally speaks, his voice is quieter than before, stripped of the clinical distance he has kept until now. I knew your mother. The words land like a stone in her chest. Her mouth goes dry, her grip tightening on the crinkled sheet beneath her. Every instinct tells her she misheard, but the certainty in his gaze erases any doubt. He doesn't blink, he doesn't look away. He lets the truth hang there, heavy, undeniable. Her thoughts race. Her mother never mentioned him, not once, not in all the late night talks, not in the whispered recollections of people she had known. The absence of his name makes the admission even more disturbing. If he knew her mother, why was he hidden? He continues, his words slow, deliberate, as though unwrapping a memory he has guarded too closely. Years ago, when I was younger, before the wealth, before the titles, I was in a place where everything was falling apart. Your mother saved me. She blinks, disoriented. The idea feels surreal, almost impossible, yet there is something raw in his tone that makes it difficult to dismiss. He doesn't speak like a man trying to impress or manipulate. He speaks like someone confessing a debt he has never been able to repay. Her mind floods with questions. Saved him how? From what? His eyes soften only slightly as he recounts fragments, never full details. The night he almost lost everything, the sickness that left him powerless, the chance encounter with a woman who offered kindness when he had nothing. He never names the illness, never explains the full story, but the reverence in his voice makes her stomach knot. And when she walked away, he adds, lowering his gaze for the first time, I swore I would never forget. She feels her breath catch, her pulse uneven. The puzzle pieces refuse to fit neatly. A doctor, a millionaire, now revealing ties to her mother's past. It feels like more than coincidence, more than chance. His composure sharpens again, but she notices it, an undercurrent of something heavier, something pressing against the surface. It isn't just gratitude, it isn't just memory. There's something else threaded into his words, something he is choosing not to say. The way he watches her makes her uneasy. It isn't the gaze of a stranger any longer. It's the gaze of a man holding a history that collides with her own, a man whose reasons for being in this small clinic have nothing to do with routine practice. She realizes then that the wealth, the success, the carefully built image, none of it matches the man in front of her. This isn't about medicine at all. It's about repayment, about shadows from the past that have found their way into her present. But the unease grows deeper. Gratitude alone wouldn't explain the secrecy. Gratitude wouldn't explain the way his voice trembles when he speaks of her mother. Gratitude wouldn't explain why his eyes keep returning to her face, as if seeing something more than resemblance. The room feels colder now, though nothing has changed. The fluorescent lights hum, the clock ticks, and yet every sound is sharper, every detail heavier. She stares at him, searching for something, an explanation, a reason, a piece of truth that will make sense of everything he has just admitted. But he doesn't rush to fill the silence. He stands steady, hands clasped loosely in front of him, as though bracing himself against the weight of his own words. His composure is there, but it is no longer flawless. She sees the strain in the lines of his face, the flicker of conflict in his eyes. Her thoughts swirl, her mother, his hidden wealth, the impossible connection tying them together. None of it fits. She wants to demand answers, but her voice refuses to come. Instead, she simply waits, heart pounding, as if time itself is holding its breath. He breaks first. There's more, he says, voice low, rougher now, like he's fighting something inside himself, but not today. Her chest tightens. She wants to scream at him, wants to shake the truth out of him, but the certainty in his tone stops her. His words are not a dismissal, they are a promise, both terrifying and magnetic. She rises slowly from the exam table, her legs shaky, the paper beneath her crumpled and torn. Every instinct tells her to flee, to escape the strange gravity pulling her closer to a man she should have no reason to trust. Yet when she steps toward the door, she feels his eyes following, burning into her back with unspoken weight. Her hand hovers over the doorknob, but something makes her turn. She looks at him one last time, and in that glance she sees it. The recognition, the longing, the shadow of a past that doesn't belong to her, but somehow binds her all the same. It is not the look of a doctor toward a patient. It is the look of a man who knows far more than he has revealed, a man carrying pieces of her life that she never gave him. Her breath hitches. Who are you really? She whispers, the words escaping before she can pull them back. For a heartbeat, he doesn't answer. His jaw tightens, his gaze hardens, and the silence feels like a blade between them. Then, with a voice barely above a whisper, he replies, "Someone who owes your family everything." Her grip on the knob tightens. The answer is too vague, too loaded, but the finality in his tone tells her he won't say more. Not now. She opens the door, the hall beyond stretching like a tunnel back to the world she thought she knew. She steps through, but before the door closes, she hears his voice again, soft, almost desperate. "You'll understand soon." The latch clicks, sealing the room behind her, but the sound doesn't bring relief. It lingers in her chest, heavy and unresolved. She walks down the hall, her body moving, but her mind tethered to the man in the white coat, the man with secrets wrapped in gratitude, the man who has just pulled her into a story she never asked to enter. And in the quiet echo of her footsteps, one truth pulses stronger than her fear. This isn't the end. It's only the beginning.